Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome. Welcome back to the IAE 2953. Today is Drake Day. That is right. Drake Interplanetary, the day before the best boys. Excuse me. I'm so excited my body can't contain it. So, yes, today we enter in from the the richest of pious of people in areas, and we go straight into the dregs of society. That is, of course, the wondrous Drake Interplanetary. So, looks like a pretty standard affair. But to be fair, there's nothing really too standard about the Drake Interplanetary lineup. We've got a pretty decent array of vessels. And, of course, everyone knows their favorite particular ship, and, of course, there's certain other fucking ship that no one ever can fucking get away from. But hey-ho, Drake Interplanetary, you're famous, you're terrifying, and you mostly fly on duct tape and prayers. So, this should be fun, regardless. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, we begin our journey in the main hall, and this time we go have a Wittawuxi at the tiny but extremely potent Drake Interplanetary Cutter. I love this little thing. This is what a starter ship should be. Now, I did mention in the Aegis episode that we've actually got some contenders for best starter ship in the game. Because the thing is, while I will agree, the Avenger Titan does have the stocks for making itself the best starter ship in the game. It's got good weapons, you've got variety, you have a cargo bay. The big problem is that it costs a lot of money. And sometimes people aren't, to ask someone who's never played Star Citizen to invest up to 90 quid for their first game package, which, to be fair, that can be, or 70 quid, depending. I think it's like 70 quid, to be fair, but it could be more. No, I think the pledge is like 70 quid, but the actual cost is probably 90 quid. I'll poink. That's the price of what their, game is with the Titan Avenger. So, quite expensive. And for someone who's not really too sure, that's a big ask. So, this ship, the Drake Interplanetary Cutter, is a really good budget-style vessel. You have the cargo bay, and you actually have something a little bit more than the Avenger Titan has as well. You not only have a bed to sleep in, but you also have a living room, you have the storage cabinet, and you have the little shit shower and the means to survive and live, which you don't get with the Avenger Titan, which is a bit of a shame, to be fair. And it does give you a bit of a disadvantage. But at the same time, this particular ship is also, I wouldn't exactly count it as it's not a fighter. It's not something that can tank stuff. It can go fast. Oh, for sure it can go fast. But it doesn't have the potency and firepower. But what it does have is a pretty damn good view from the cockpit. But here's a really cool thing. Where are you? There you go. Canopy armor. Which, of course, doesn't deploy. But basically, what happens is these panels become armored, so while you can't see out of them, you are protected, which is a really nice feature. Maybe at the moment it doesn't really do anything. It's more like a passive or like a personal placebo, but I like it, and it kind of passes the MFD test. You still have to look down for this one, but it's fine. But this particular ship, it's got a good visual flair to it. It looks pretty nice. And, I'm going to sneeze. But it has that sort of simple but reliable. It has, you're not requiring a whole host of things. Drake Interplanetary cockpits are always, simple. And they definitely... And also, they have a very interactable... So if I was to enable... You can actually enable ESP, you can have sort of the buttons pressed. There's lots of buttons. You're very interactable cockpit, which I like. It's very, very cool. So you can exit, which obviously you got the gimbal weapons as well. Free gimbals, gimbal lock, which is basically a feature where you can obviously... Because obviously, as you can see, you are gimbaled. You have a size 2 Varipuck gimbal mount, which means you have size 1, 2 size 1 bulldogs, which are basically size 1 laser repeaters. Not great as a starting weapon, but at the same time, this vessel isn't really a combat vessel. This is more of a get from, your initial starting experience sort of ship. You fly around, you pick up boxes, you put them down. Yeah, it's boring, but you're not used to flying combat stuff yet. Unless you're stupid, you will kind of... Well, you may be working with people, but like if you are determined to get yourself killed, you can probably upgrade these to like size 2 and probably get something out of it. I doubt it though. It's not very... I wouldn't count this ship as a combat vessel. She is very fast in a singular direction, but she's a bit of a brick in other elements to it. And then, of course, let's not forget that she isn't really designed as a combat vessel, so her shields, her equipment, they're not exactly going to be what you'd call up to high spec. But what is useful is the utility of this, and that's one of the things I love. You also have a pretty reasonable 4 SCUs worth of cargo, so we're at half the cargo capacity of the Avenger Titan. But still, that's not a bad thing, because this ship is much cheaper than the Avenger Titan. I think it's like around 50, 60-ish quid for a game package with this involved. But still, very, very good ship. Absolutely fantastic. I'll probably be putting a text in the thing to say this is what the price is of that ship, but bear with. And, ooh, look at this baby. Ooh, look at this baby. So this is the Drake Cutter Scout, which reduces... Does it reduce the amount, or does it keep the same amount? To be fair, this is the first time I even saw it. So it does reduce the cargo capacity by about 2. So you only have about 2. I see, there's the cam. Okay, so it's it's literally just a Scout edition. So yeah, you sacrifice 2 SCUs worth of cargo, and then you can use this radar station, which is mounting the big radar dish at the top. Not entirely sure if this vessel's going to be seeing too much in the sense of action, but as Scouts go, it's not a bad idea for a ship. I just realized something. That ship, on its stilts, right? This ship, no landing gear. I think someone forgot to put the landing gear on. Whoops. Sorry. Oh no, there is the landing gear. It just sunk into the ground. I see. It's okay. But still, this ship is very, very nice. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. These thrusters on both the Scout and the Cutter, they are VTOL capable. Now, why is this so important, you may ask? Well, the VTOL capabilities in ships may become more of an applicable thing, or more of a thing that is important, because in the future, ships with maneuvering thrusters that try to hover will have those thrusters become far more degraded, far faster than those with VTOL thrusters, which means vessels that don't have naturally VTOL-style thrusters may be either forced to fly constantly going forward like a plane, or to land and save their thrusters for emergencies only. Either way, this could be meaning that ships like the Cutter, like the fucking Cutlass Black, or the Prospector or the Mole, any ship with any kind of VTOL capability may have a distinct advantage in certain realms, which can only mean good things for vessels wanting to sort of rack up the popularity list. The Drake Caterpillar. This girl's been in the game for quite some time, and I won't lie, she definitely deserves the praise of being like an old... definitely deserves the praise, oldie but a goodie. This particular vessel it was one of the largest cargo ships in Star Citizen, and she held that title for many years, before finally having that crown taken away from her, or relinquishing that crown is probably the more correct term, when the Hercules C2 came out. And I will say, as crowns go, the Hercules, as cargo hauling goes, she was the be-all and end-all for cargo hauling. 576 SCUs worth of cargo, with a massive multi-crew sort of... Like, this was one of the first few ships, I would say, that needed multiple crew members. There were ships out there that had the ability for you to sort of go, oh, if you want crew, you can have it, or if you want to fly around with more than one person, it was fun, but it wasn't really required to be able to do things. No, this thing, you needed multiple crew. And the reason for this is simply because if you try to go to a port and do your whole cargo trading thing, odds are someone would try and sneak on board. And when you're flying around minding your own business, and then someone kills you in this particular endeavor. So having a crew, having a ship like this is definitely is very much an important endeavor. I forgot I had my character's helmet off. Whoops. There we go. Just so I have a torch. So, yes, as you can see as I was walking around, the main sort of crux of the Caterpillar is the fact that each of its massive cargo modular hubs, I'm going to call, for some reason can't, I'll go room. Each of the cargo rooms inside the ship have the ability to retract open, there you go, and showcase their internals, which is pretty cool. This has led to many memes about this particular ship being considered an aircraft carrier. And I think and to be fair, like, you definitely could have a number of ships that could hop into it. But the other really good thing is you could probably stick a number of Nova Tonks inside and turn it into a battleship. Because why not? Oh, God. But yes, the other cool thing about this ship is that it now also has a functional tractor beam, which means when you're doing cargo element or cargo missions or other scrupulous things, wink wink, you actually get access to a host of pretty dope stuff. Also, you have access to server as well, which is nice. Like, these particular ships with with Drake Interplanetary, there's lots of things about the ship that is very utilitarian in its role. And as ships from Drake Interplanetary go, it's pretty freaking dope for that. You also have a sort of command module thing esque element to it, which is separated at this little segment here, as this is actually the moment. This is basically the command module that allows you to basically fly the ship around, and has a very nice view if you hop into the pilot seat, which we'll quickly look into in a moment, because it is a very pleasant view here. And it passes the MFD test, where all the MFDs are available to you, which is fantastic. In terms of flying as well, this vessel is actually quite... Like, I've flown it a few times. It feels pretty maneuverable for a size. Yes, it's a bit sluggish, so you're not going to be, drifting around planets. But you'd think the size of this ship and whatever, you'd think it would be hard to maneuver. But this thing can turn. It's slow, but it can turn. It's not like a fucking brick, which is, yeah, well, I've flown worse ships, put it that way. And I also like this sort of off-side style of cockpit as well. Though, to be fair, there's a bit of a funny story with this particular ship. Or at least, in law terms, probably not so funny, but because it involved robbery. But for the people else involved in this, it's quite a good one. So, the story goes that... just showcasing the living hab inside the ship that you can get into, that my character is like, I can't go in it. Okay, what the hell? My character was having a heart attack, probably because he thought he was not going to get out of there in time. I'll just move out. So the story goes that the ship was being used by pirates, because of course it's Drake Interplanetary, and they rammed into a cruise liner. And they basically robbed the people blind. When the authorities showed up to basically tell them, oi, what you doing? Why are you doing this shit? Oh, God, don't tell me we're having this problem again. Okay, I'm just going to get the fuck off this thing, because I guess Ladders and me are not going to agree. So, where's the stairs going down? There we go. So as the criminals begin to make their escape, they sort of go, haha, you're going to have to, you can't leave these civilians alone, and we're going to get away. And they're like, obviously the security force is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course we're going to get you. And then it's like, well, not really, because you need to make sure the ship doesn't explode. And they detach the command module and fly off. And true to their word, they couldn't get to them, because then if they did, the ship that they had would have exploded and torn itself apart due to the fact that the now empty cargo element bay sort of thing was basically jammed shut, wedged in to this cruise liner. So the criminals got away, and the poor people lost their money, but at least they didn't lose their lives, which is important. So in terms of defenses, this thing has some bite. Now, yes, as you can see, those are rhinos. The size 4 weapons. Yeah, that big. You also have access to size 3 on gimbals, which is over here, with a Vari puck, which is pretty nice, I think. Yeah, so on a gimbal, you have access to some pretty... They don't look like it, but they are actually on gimbals. M4, or M1, 2 M4As, and 2 M5As, which is ridiculous. Okay, so it's not size... Yeah, so you got size 3 gimbal points, so you can get size 3 fixed weapons on the front, and 1 size 5? Yes, size 5 dual S3, and then 2 M5A2s, which are size 3s. So quite a lot of firepower for a ship that is not really being well, for a cargo ship, and you got a tractor beam now, which is nice. And of course, you have some... But as I said, it's not really a combat vessel. So it's kind of pointless talking about the Caterpillar as a combat vessel, because the only real essence for combat is, can this ship avoid getting shot at? And if so, how long can we keep it avoiding being shot at before it just inevitably dies as a result? But that doesn't stop the pirates from using these things for combat purposes. But unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do with the Drake Interplanetary pirate, because, well, a pirate who uses Drake Interplanetary, because pretty much anything is a combat ship in their eyes. However, not the case. It will eventually be. As we enter into the first room, you are greeted by, of course, the most famous of Drake Interplanetary vessels, and I almost don't even need to give them an actual introduction, because we know that's the Cutlass Black, that's the Cutlass Blue, that's the Cutlass Ripoff, that's the Cutlass Medic, or Red. But first, I want to talk about this ship. This ship right here, introduced late last year, and we got to see into full action early this year. This is, of course, the Drake Interplanetary Vulture, which, if any of you have played EVE Online, some of you may be getting rather excited or getting rather pessimistic, whichever you view to it. This is, of course, very similar to the Venture from EVE, which is basically a massive mining... Well, I say massive. It's like the entry mining vessel. But this is all about Scroop. And to be fair, I do like how this ship looks. It looks really, really nice. And I think this is also VTOL thrusters. Yes, it is. So this thing is wondrous. And it is the great starting ship to get into Scrooping, which is really awesome. So if you've seen my video, if you've seen the earlier video on... I won't go into full detail regarding how Scrooping works, because that was in my Aegis Dynamics video. Slight plug there. But basically, this ship is smaller than, obviously, the Aegis Dynamics Reclaimer. So naturally, you're not going to be able to get as much Scroop. But at the same time, in terms of utilizing that, it is still pretty cool. So if we open up to here, there's no ladders or anything. Well, there's no, there is no lifts or anything simple. It's just a quick ladder. There's a little internal little compartment here, and then you go into the living room completely. And as you can see, it's a very simplistic, very bare bones, but that's kind of the point. It's not really meant to do anything snazzy. And as we make our way, there's the shit shower. Go into the accommodation here. And we hop into our wonderful ships. And in terms of the MFD test, Hang on, let me just see if it will actually turn on. No, no power. Not very impressive. Well, all the interactable things. So exterior, close exterior. Is there a power on button? I just didn't realize you could actually enable that. Nice. Let me have a look. See, is there any button that allows me to turn the power on the left-hand side? I've got the exterior. Oh. Okay, exit to rear, exit ship. Okay. Is there quantum spooling? No, that's fine. Well, basically, the MFDs you have here, we have an MFD here, we have an MFD there. It kind of, well, it half passes it because these two MFDs down below aren't visible, which is a bit of a shame. But to be fair, you're really going to be focusing on the middle, which has these two salvaging energy beams. At the moment, it's only hull scraping, which is basically where you fire a beam onto a vehicle that's been, nuked, and then you can... Oops, there we go. You fire onto a beam that's been nuked. Sorry, you can fire a beam onto... Oh, yeah, that's where you get it. Okay. Can you open up the doors from the side here, or do I have to... No, it doesn't look like we're going to get this thing, are we? No. No. Fuck it. Right, well, normally there's another way you can get out, which is this sort of side door passage here. But for some reason, which is a bit weird. Don't know why it's not working this time, but hey-ho, it's a showroom model. I've actually got one myself, and I'm not going to lie, this is probably my favorite ship in the lineup so far. I do like the Venture, because it's one of those things that makes me like industrialization, and it's one of the main reasons why I do enjoy Star Citizen so much, is because I'm really looking forward to being able to being like, okay, I want to do some scrooping, and so instead of like sort of going to a contract or anything, I just go to the nearest battle zone and be just like, yeah, see what happens afterwards, and you sort of see if you can pick apart what loot's left, or maybe even get a contract and be like, hey, I've been told to go scroop over here, and if we find anything useful, just give it to the authorities, and then we can be fine. Or hey, we'll give a little message to a friend of mine saying, hey, look, I just found a Bengal carrier. We're gonna go scroop it. But yeah, so this is the alternative way you can get on, which is this ladder point here. And basically you climb on to the vehicle over here, and then you walk over to here, and then that door opens. But for some reason, I think because this is the showroom model, they're always a bit more bugged than usual. And I think the main intention is you're supposed to go rent it, and then you can have the full experience there. But still, really nice looking ship. I personally love it, and it's probably my favorite ship in the Drake Interplanetary lineup, which probably says a lot about me. So, we introduce ourselves to, well, a ship that needs no introduction. I am, of course, talking about the Cutlass Black. Now, to be fair, just a quick note, I don't know if they decided to go with a lighter paint, or if it's just where they've placed it under the lighting, but I honestly thought that was the steel because of how silver it looks, and that was the Cutlass Black because it was a lot darker in tone. But it turns out this is the black, that's the rip-off, which we'll get into reasons why I say that's the rip-off in a minute. But this, of course, is the Cutty Black. I honestly don't think I need to go into huge details with this, because most of you probably already know this ship. But for those who've never played Star Citizen, I'll run through the basics. This is the fucking annoying ship that just answers every fucking question that you ever could possibly want. This is the poster child of Drake Interplanetary. And to be fair, this is also one of the other ships that is incredibly famous in Star Citizen. When you think of Star Citizen, you either think of the Gladius for like maybe sort of super high-tech, fighter things. You may think Carrack for like big fancy pants crew expansion and in exploration and all that jazz. 890 Jump if you think of fancy pants assholes who don't really do anything and just muck around all day. Or if you're a pirate or a bandit or a person who thinks, I want to live the nomad life, then this is probably the ship for you. Well, and also would be advertised. It is one of the most famous ships probably in Star Citizen. And as a result, it tends to be the most favorite to be picked by a lot of people. And the reason why I personally have a slight grudge against this thing is the fact that it's irritatingly useful. Every single thing you could and I mention this every fucking time I talk about it. It's my biggest complaint, is that it's just too fucking useful. And it answers a lot of questions. You've got VTOL thrusters, which makes it very useful for land invasions. You've got side door cabinets, which allow you to board other vessels and move cargo into said vessel. You have a giant cargo bay, very open. 46 SCU worth of cargo, so not a huge amount, but in comparison to some other ships around its tier. But it's just, you can dump a vehicle in here, you can dump a whatever into here, and it's very accessible. It's very, very accessible, not just in terms of, like, you can actually get in, but, like, in terms of new player friendly as well. Like, this is a very new player friendly ship. And then, of course, you've got a turret, which means if you have a friend of yours who wants, you want to get into Star Citizen, guess what? You can get him in the fucking turret, and it's very accessible. And then, of course, you've got these, you've then got the pilot seat, which if obviously you get into, you hop into it, you fly up. It also passes the fucking MFD test, which is irritating as shit because it means in terms of fighter, it's very decent. It's also got gimbaled weapons. It's got 2 Scorpion GT5, 215, sorry. And it's meaning that you've got ballistics. You've then got 2 227F badges, which is pretty nice, cool. And then you've got a fucking manned turret with 2 Panther repeaters on that as well. Before continuing with a whole host of different missiles, you've got 4 Arrestor 3s. Sorry, no, not 4. 8 Arrestor 3s. And 4 Tempest 4 size 3 missiles. So all of these size 3 missiles you've got as well, which is ridiculous. So bearing in mind, gimbaled means you can get some fucking... You can make it even bigger as well. So you can make it into a massive combat zone, which is irritating as shit. It's... And, like, it answers every fucking top question. As I mentioned, hey, do you want to play around in a slightly decked up ship, which gives you the ability to, opt into all the different kind of allows you to enter into all of the different kind of contracts without really having too much of a problem. Cutlass Black. Hey, I want to introduce my friend to Star Citizen, and I want him to be able to get a good Cutlass Black. Hey, I've got a mining vehicle, and I want to try and earn Cutlass Black. Like, it just never fucking ends in terms of how much it just wants to just say what it is, and I'm like, motherfucker! And it just drives me up the wall. So, yes, the Cutlass Black, the most fucking common vessel in the galaxy, and one that, despite my desperation and pleas, I fear may still be the most popular vessel, even after the C1 rightfully slaps into the ground. So what do the other versions do? What exactly are these reasons for being here? Well, this edition is the Cutlass Red, and for a while, the Cutlass Red was the only was one of the most popular vehicles for clans, because there was a time where you could actually set your spawn onto one of these things before the regeneration tables took into full effect. It was literally just a button that you pressed, which would then select your regeneration option there. So if you died in combat, you would basically be immediately regenerated to here. Of course, they have since updated this feature, and so now you can no longer regenerate here, but instead you can basically sort of heal here, though that almost looks like regeneration to me. Can I actually... No. What? Okay, yeah, it doesn't work, but that's still kind of intriguing. But no, so basically, as you can see, you can get the ship. You can't get basically, start again. Due to the medical tier of the bed, you cannot regenerate here. However, you can heal and maybe stabilize more severe wounds, which, for some people is quite important. They've replaced the turret with a toilet, which, of course, is a fairly... Yeah, it's better. It's obviously not a lethal approach, and as I said, it's kind of treated as an ambulance. There's no real other way to describe it except it is kind of an ambulance, which is fair enough. And as we progress over to the other side, so on the other side, you are presented with the Cutlass Blue and the Cutlass Ripoff. So the Cutlass Blue is the police edition of this particular vessel. So you've got bandit holding facilities in here, and also a means to hold and ensure that the person survives. Side door access panels, which I forgot to mention, you also can get these in the Cutlass Red as well, rather than the side door panels. You get access to a turret, but the main difference is, unlike the Cutlass Black with its very stratified cockpit, this one has the best cockpit in my opinion in comparison to the Cutlass blue, Cutlass black, because obviously uninterrupted, unimpeded views, which is a very nice thing. And I said, this is kind of more of a police style thing. In terms of armament, it doesn't have the... Hang on, is it going to let me off? There we go. Come on. Can I get it? There we go. So the... Yeah, so the Cutlass Blue main difference in terms of armament is that instead of having two sort of like instead of having the two Panther repeaters, instead you've got what's known as the there we go. You instead have what's known as the DR Model XJ2, which are basically shield nullifiers. They're not really. They're basically designed to fuck with shields and maybe fuck with electronics, but not destroy the ship, because you want to kind of keep the people alive. And the other thing, which is pretty potent, is that this ship has an EMP generation field as well. So this is another vessel that has an EMP-capable weapon, which can be very useful, depending on the circumstances. And finally, the Cutlass Ripoff. So the Cutlass Ripoff is effectively a joke of a Cutlass. The only real difference is that this is a troop transport edition with a number of weapons as well. So, for example, here you've got a there we go. You've got a Gatling gun, size 1 Gatling gun. So the Mantis, and yeah, that's it. That's literally it. You've got 4 Gatling guns on the sides here. And they've just dumped a bunch of seats, which, to be fair, yeah, that's the kind of padding I'd expect. So yeah, basically it's just a dropship version of a Cutlass Black. Not a bad idea, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, the fact that this ship came out and it was like double, if not almost, it was like the Cutlass Black, the Cutlass Black on average is worth about 100 quid. If you're looking at the ship's value, it's about 100 quid. So, yeah, that's a pretty reasonable amount of money for a ship. It's like $100 if you're using the upgrade panels, or 110 US dollars around that sort of region. So again, a pretty reasonable amount of a reasonable price for a pretty decent ship that answers pretty much everything. You go over to the Cutlass Steel, and that price goes skyrocketing high up to like $260. Like $260 on the standalone, for example, is what was the price was. Sorry, £260 on the standalone. So when this ship was announced, people thought it was a joke at first, because people were thinking, there's no way this ship, which doesn't really offer that much, is worth all that money. And I will say it isn't. That was I would say, a bad move on CIG's part when they introduced that ship, because it just completely fell flat. Nobody cared about it. Nobody liked it. And it's just a ship that reminds people as to what mistakes can be made. And I personally never liked. I just called it the ripoff because that's kind of what it is. It's just a Cutlass Black, just a bit shitter, you know? As we enter into the last hall before we enter the holodecks, we are greeted by 3 very interesting and very beautifully designed ships. All very different, but all having a unique purpose. So this is the Buccaneer. This is probably my favorite fighter craft from Drake Interplanetary. And it's, to describe Warhammer 40k, it's the most orky of all ships. Literally 2 giant engines strapped onto a very thin wing frame before being thrusted with all sorts of weapons to try and make it go a little bit more deadly. You have got a size 4 Revenant Gatling gun at the top, 2 size 1 Yellow Jacket machine guns there, and 2 size 3 Panther repeaters on the side wings. You also have 2 Tempest 2 and 2 Ignite 2 missiles as well. So all in all, this thing is absolutely lethal, and in straight line speeds max up to like 1300 meters per second going fast forward. It's very, very fast forward. Big downside is it is pretty much a glass cannon. Any loss of shields and you're fucked. Literally, you are fucked. and there is very little you can do about it. But it was, but for me, I love this thing. It is tiny, it is pathetic, but I fucking love it because, oh, just, oh, it feels so good. You know, it's such a nice little thing. Ooh. But yeah, no, these things look, oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. And also, to be fair, in terms of visuals, you actually get a pretty decent view here. You know, nothing amazing. You still have to deal with the struts and everything. But but you do get to see quite a lot of the you do have a pretty decent field view. And you definitely would need to upgrade the Gatling. Like, the Revenant is a really shit weapon. But if you give it an AD4B, that probably will save you quite a lot, as well as upgrading some of the other components. But no, I love it. I very much I love my one, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of mine. Or if I do, it'll have to go to a fighter craft that will be worthy of such a name. Anyway, going from fighting a lot to running a lot, this is the Drake Herald. The Drake Herald is primarily designed as a sort of information runner craft. It's not really designed for combat, it's literally designed to yeet itself from the nearest location to the other location as fast as possible, all the while trying to transmit data, which I do love. I do love the design of this ship, just because I love the concept of just giant engine on back of ship, let me go fast forward. And unfortunately we can't seem to get into this particular thing. I'm hoping we can, because I want to showcase how thin it is in the inside. Oh, I saw the door. I saw the door. Oh. I saw the door. I saw the door. I saw the door. Let me open it up into the door. No, it doesn't seem to let me do that. Well, basically, you've got a very thin internal cargo bay. I have shown this interior before, but it looks like they just want me to rent the fucking thing rather than showcase this thing. So that's fine. We'll look on the outside. But no, in terms of armament, this thing is pretty pathetic. I mean, you've got a Scorpion GT-15 on the front. So maybe you could. It's also on a gimbal, so you could get a size 3 gimbaled, and you've got a couple of size 1 bulldogs on the front there. You've also got a couple of task force. You're like 8 task force missiles, so size 1 missiles. But again, it's not a combat ship. It's designed to go fast and very forward. Just use that option, as well as data saving projects. But you get what I mean. It's not worth the hassle. As we make our way towards the final craft, you are greeted with lots of guns. Holy shit, that's lots of guns. Yes, this is definitely a Drake Interplanetary ship, isn't it? But this particular ship is designed for one purpose: exploration. Or what will actually happen? Piracy exploration. But yes, no, the Drake Interplanetary Corsair is actually quite a famous vessel. It was quite hyped for its release, and as ships go, I also personally think this could be the kind of ship for a small crew, something that doesn't really need to be massive. Because the thing is, with the Carrack, for example, with Anvil, which we'll be seeing later on when Anvil Day comes along, but the Carrack is massive. It's huge. You have to have at least 4 to 5 people to really, to really fully use it, because you've got multiple turrets, you've got multiple engineer stations. The Carrack is a full packaged ship, whereas this vessel, it isn't really full packaged. It's not that large, and that's not a bad thing. You have a pretty sizable cargo bay, which allows you to get a ground vehicle in, maybe an Ursa rover, maybe a few dragonflies, or perhaps a few bunch of bits of cargo. You also have a little weird engineering station here, which kind of looks nice as well. And let's open the doors, or do we need to... Yeah, we need to open the doors. So let's open the doors. So you're immediately entering into like the central core elements of the computer. We have a doors. There you go. So we have our little docking bay doors here. So you can see this is like got its own little interior and having an exploration sort of thing, which is nice as well. And you've also got a sort of engineer management station here, along with a gravity generation, as all the components are easy to access, which can be quite useful in a bit of a dire situation. Going into the living quarters, for some reason the power doesn't seem to be on here. I'll just turn the lights on. There we go. So as you can see, the living quarters looks pretty nice as well. You've got, we open up here, one of the crew quarters as well. Not very big, but, and you know, it's a bit compact. But again, this is a Drake Interplanetary ship, and this is an expedition ship, so it's not really designed to be luxurious. It's designed to work, and that what it be, it will work. You got your usual standard affair of living amenities here. Here you go, the shit shower. And you've got a couple of crew, like about 4 crew maximum on that. But again, that can be quite useful. The one thing I really like about the Drake Corsair, and I wish more ships had this in Star Citizen, is you can have an elevator that not only takes you to the bottom, which allows you to get out onto the top, but you can, or get out onto the surface of any planet, like, you know, some of the ships do. And I think also what was it? I think also the Carrack does that as well. Let's have a look, see if it's going to raise up as well, because I know that it's kind of spoiling the surprise a bit there. There we go. But if we go over here, this thing has the ability to reach the roof, which is really cool. So, and I've actually done this in a practicable sense outside of an event, which is dope as all hell. Basically, I was flying with a friend of mine, and a bunch of the, there was a number of ships that were just hanging out in the middle of space, so we were trying to see if we can hopefully, you know, hop ourselves into one. And while we sadly weren't able to get into the ships, because I don't think we had the necessary tools, the fact that I was standing on top of a ship, on top of a planet, like, if you look down, there's the ground, you know, fucking thousands of meters away, and, yeah, it was pretty terrifying, to say the least. But, oh, hello, I think the doors, I think this definitely, hang on, let me just, there we go. So I think there's a bit of a lag going on for the moment, because like there's very slow reactions to the doors. Maybe that's how it works. But still, so as you can see, that's a really useful room for that. So the other thing that's pretty nice is these 2 turrets, which when you get into them, not only can obviously focus around and do their usual 180-degree defenses, but also has the really nice ability to focus forwards, which can help the pilot if in case the shit hits the fan and we're like, we need to nuke this guy in the middle right now. And the captain gets himself a slightly snazzier crew quarter thing, but not that much better. I think we get it in a different angle, but that's about it. And if we go into the pilot seat, it also does a very nice job and passes the MFD test, which is a big plus in my book. Very interactable keyboard and everything. Is it QWERTY they got? Yeah, QWERTY! With like a little numpad and everything. That's really fucking cool. So yeah, you got like a little command module there with a really nice little fan and everything. It looks and feels really awesome. In terms of visuals as well, you got some good options. And here's a really cool thing. There's a co-pilot seat who then gets access, if I take a seat here, to an underbit, which is fucking sick as all hell, which is dope. And if I was to go to the center, there we go, it also passes the MFD test, because we can actually see up here as well. And it's really good for landing. Now, I don't think this thing is as easy to control. I think there's only a few weapons it can fly. But I think it is, if memory serves correctly, though I haven't been in a Corsair for a while, I need to take mine for a spin again at some point. I think we can get the... I think you can fly this ship with the co-pilot seat as well. So if you're trying to go in for a landing, what you might find is you get out of the ship and then get out of the vessel, get out of the pilot seat and go into the co-pilot seat, or you give control over the co-pilot and be like, yo, you know how to land this, right? And he sort of smiles at you, realize that he smiles at you, reminding you of what mistake you've just made. But yeah, so this particular ship is really nice. I really like this ship. And to be fair, this is the kind of ship that I believe, like hand on my heart, believe is the kind of ship I'm going to be working from. Not because I'm a Drake fanboy, but because this is the kind of ship that with my sort of close-knit type friends at Ario, this is the most likely ship I'm going to have enough room to work with people on. And I think it allows me to sort of go, hey, I want to do an expedition to Pyro. I want to go to this little location here. I don't have that many friends available online, so instead of making a massive carrack with a fleet escort, I can just fly in with a Corsair, be blending into the background, and get to where I need to go before obviously proceeding further afield, or not. But still, be a lot better to get a better chance of doing that there than the other way. So, we're downstairs, and we are showcasing the Dragonfly to start with. So, any of you may know that the Dragonfly is quite a famous ground skimmer bike thing that's been around since God knows how long. I honestly... like, when I was getting back into Star Citizen, and when I was, like, playing it for proper reals, this thing was already, there for a while. So these things have been around for quite a bit of time. And they are quite essentially just a simple skimmer bike with a size 1 Havoc shotgun-style weapon onto it. I have seen these things in action. I remember back when I was doing the BSI Org v Org events, there was one event where we were facing off against a clan of highly skilled... people really highly skilled in the arena commander areas. They were like the highest on the leaderboard sort of things. Basically get fucking shredded by these things in the open. It was really kind of disgusting at one point, because we basically, 2 of these things were on our side for a King of the Hill style matchup on Microtech when it was relatively new, and these things basically flew around the battlefield just demolishing them. Like, these things were devastating. Of course, since then, these the skimmer vehicles have been going through a bit of a rough time. I think for a long period of time they kept crashing into the ground. I don't know their current state of them. I'm not a huge fan of skimmer bikes, but they aren't too bad. Like, again, I don't see much value in them at this moment in time, but maybe in the future when you may become more mandatory to fly with, or to not fly in certain zones. Maybe there's like a no-fly zone, maybe there's a AAA emplacement, and you need a ground vehicle. This may be an option for you, or maybe not, depends. It's more of a cinematic thing than anything. But what is a useful vehicle, and I actually have one in my inventory, and I'll be very unlikely, or to be fair, I need to probably I actually don't know if I've got it in my inventory, but if I haven't, I'm getting it again, which is, of course, the Mule. This is a little 6-wheeled, adorable vessel, which is designed for the sole purpose of cargo hauling, and it's designed to basically transport all the necessary goods from one section to another, giving you that essential... that essential flair, or the essential bits of things. There's even a forklift option thing there for it as well. And I'm looking forward to the day where we can drive these things around one of the bases and grab the cargo and plop it into a ship, and there be clans of people dedicated to that role. I am not gonna lie, I would probably, if I had the capacity to lead a clan, if there ever came a point where you could actually, you could choose to load ships manually, or you could pay people to do that for you, I would be raising a clan of dedicated cargo loaders. We would be the most terrifying space force in the entire galaxy, because we would do Logi. Oh, Logi and Star Citizen, that would be amazing. So we wrap up today's big old event with the... of course, classic design, massive room. I think this is the most I've seen of space. And once again, I say this every year, and they've yet to fix it. They don't put a fucking staircase in, so we can't see the fucking top. God fucking damn it. Well, this ship obviously doesn't really need an introduction. This is, of course, the Drake Interplanetary Kraken. The Kraken. The beautiful and my end goal vessel. Though, to be honest with you, more recent times I've been sort of talking with my friends, and it's like, I don't know if I can own such a thing, because no one will be able to fly it with me. However much I want one. Oh, this is one of those projects which is just like, yeah, we're doing this thing. No, but still, this particular vessel is ridiculous. You have a drone fixing capacity in the... If we have a look at this side, because this is where all those like, little bit different modules are. So, as mentioned, you've got a hangar bay with like the cargo doors and everything. You've got a drone fixing facility for the Dragonfly, I think Dragonfly or drone fixing facility. Additional cargo spaces alongside. You have the internal components here. You've got the bridge along the top, and of course you've got a dedicated hangar bays and systems in tow. If you did decide to get the privateer version, which is the merchant version, a number of cargo bays are sort of put to the one side, and instead you've got a little own marketplace there. Same goes for the Dragonfly sort of thing as it was, but still you've got some room there as well, and it is beautiful. I do love the Kraken. It's one of the ships that when they announced it back in 2018, I fell in love with it almost immediately, and I've been wanting it for many years. I think the ship's probably more or less there, but we're obviously waiting on other features to come through. But hopefully with the introduction of some of the more advanced features, such as the whole server meshing and everything else, we may see the full integration of some of these ships. I think the Polaris was supposedly meant to be the largest. I think I've got my snap. To be fair, I think I've got my screenshot for this. But I think the Polaris I think the Polaris is set to be the. Is there a way I can do this? I think the Polaris is set to be. Probably go for something else. I think the Polaris was set to be the first big capital ship to come into the game. But at the same time, you never know, things may evolve into the future. Once Squadron 42 comes out, maybe they'll suddenly start thinking, let's talk about capitals. And that'll be pretty dope, not gonna lie. Looking forward to it. But unfortunately, today has wrapped up to a close. So Drake Interplanetary Day, it's been alright. I can't say there's no new ships available, so unless this is your first foray into the IAE 2953, nothing too special, really. I mean, we've got this, which is of just a different... It's just basically a reskin with new features, but still, it's not bad. I don't mind it. It's an enjoyable ship. I like the cutter. I didn't really know why they needed to have a scout edition for it, but at the same time, it's not like the end of the world. And obviously, we've got our favorite forays and whatnot, but really, it's probably about the Kraken, which probably is sold out by now. That thing sells like hotcakes whenever they go live, so definitely a interesting perspective onto that, but still very enjoyable nonetheless. And I hope to catch you all guys in tomorrow's episode, which will be the best episode, because that's where all the Argo, the Industrial, the Gruben, the Grey Cat Industrial, all of that jazz, that's when they're in. The Industry Day is coming, and I am very excited to showcase that, as well as very excited to go talk about it. So I hope to catch you then. I'm just going to go try and take a photo of... I'm actually going to try so we can get a couple of snaps of here as well before I forget, because I'm going to forget, and then I'm going to be like, this place is amazing, and then I forget about that, which will be really sad. So I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. Let me know what you think of this kind of content in the description, as well as also checking out all of the stats and stuff. I've also put a link in the description for Urcool, which is basically a website dedicated to all of the internal components and vessels, sort of all the little gimbos and bits, which is where I've been getting my information on with regards to weapons and the like. So if you are a new to Star Citizen, or you want to step your game up, then you should be able to have a crack at that website. And it's a really useful website, and it helps you sort of understand what your ship can do and what builds you can make to make it even more awesome. So I'll catch you guys next time. This is Mr. Jaeger signing out.